They thought our games were toys, until they realized we were teaching ourselves how to win wars. When the first alien observers arrived on Earth, they did not come in fire or fury. They came as scientists or luminous beings whose minds shimmered in patterns of light rather than words. They called themselves the Trell, and their curiosity about humanity was boundless. They had mastered interstellar travel, quantum communication, and biosynthetic immortality, but they had never encountered creatures who played games of conflict for pleasure. At first, the Trell watched silently as humans competed in massive virtual battles. They saw the flickering screens of strategy games, empires rising and falling in simulated wars, players clicking and commanding invisible armies. They found it absurd. One Trell scholar, Varishkin, recorded his thoughts. These primitives simulate annihilation for entertainment. How fragile their psychology must be. The alien scientists laughed in harmonic resonance, their version of mockery echoing across their silver halls. They observed professional gamers training endlessly, memorizing maps, timing attacks, predicting enemy patterns. To the Trell, it was chaos masked as intellect. What they didn't realize, what no alien civilization had ever done, was that humanity's obsession with wargames was not mere amusement, it was preparation. For centuries, humans had turned conflict into an art form. Chess had birthed the foundations of tactics. Video games like StarCraft, Command and Conquer, and later Neural Dominion had trained minds to think in layers, anticipating, adapting, improvising. To humans, war wasn't just about power. It was a puzzle to be solved, a challenge of intellect. To the Trell, it was madness. But when the Great Contact War began, their laughter stopped. It started small, a misunderstanding during a joint research mission on Mars. A human defense satellite, mistaking a Trell scout drone for a weapon, destroyed it. The Trell retaliated by disabling every satellite orbiting Earth within minutes. Their ships hovered like gods over the planet, vast and blinding, emitting low-frequency tones that rippled through oceans. Earth's military scrambled, communication networks failed, panic spread. But amid the chaos, a quiet group began to organize, not presidents but gamers. Not presidents but gamers. In underground bunkers, the best minds from the Global Strategy League gathered. They weren't soldiers, they were tournament champions, simulation designers, and AI people who had spent years mastering virtual battlefields that mirrored reality better than any training program. When the military AI Prometheus was compromised, these gamers were the only ones who could interface directly with it. Colonel Moren Lee, head of Earth Defense Command, said one fateful sentence that changed everything. If this is a game to them, let's show them how we play. Thus began the Simulation Offensive Initiative, a desperate plan to use strategy simulation protocols to coordinate real-time global defense. Every city's anti-air grid, every drone fleet, every missile launcher was connected into a single network, a living, breathing strategy board. As alien ships descended through the atmosphere, they no longer heard laughter. They heard silence, the kind before something strikes. When the first alien drones entered Earth's airspace, the official military command was paralyzed. Conventional tactics failed. The Tyrell moved in patterns no human pilot could predict, like a school of predatory fish made of light and logic. Their ships could split into swarms, recombine, and strike from impossible angles. To human generals, it was incomprehensible. To gamers, it looked familiar. Deep beneath Tokyo, in a converted esports arena, 30 players sat before holographic strategy interfaces once used for international tournaments. Their names glowed across the room like a forgotten scoreboard. Zephyr, Novagis, Ironfox, Deltamind, and others whose fame had once belonged to streaming platforms, not battlefields. They weren't chosen by rank, but by instinct. They understood the rhythm of simulated war, the tempo of reaction and anticipation. The military's AI liaison, Prometheus, connected them directly to orbital and terrestrial defense grids. Every move they made, every command they issued, translated into real action on the battlefield. At first, it was chaos. No one truly believed it could work. Then Zephyr spoke. .com and steady through the intercom. We've played harder maps than this. The alien fleet descended over the Pacific. Human aircraft were outmaneuvered in seconds until Zephyr's team began directing squadrons in coordinated, predictive strikes. They didn't fight defensively. They played. Their movements followed the logic of gaming tactics: misdirection, feints, baited counterattacks. Each alien drone destroyed fed data back into Prometheus, evolving their strategy with frightening speed. For the first time in the history of warfare, the front line moved at the speed of a game. News spread fast. Across continents, other gaming hubs were drafted: Moscow, São Paulo, Lagos, Soy. Thousands of players synced into Prometheus's network, each group handling regional defenses. The alien scanners detected a strange pattern in human command: decentralized, dynamic, constantly adapting. No two human attacks were ever the same. The Trell analysts couldn't comprehend it. Their strategy is chaotic, said Varushkin. It contradicts all logic models. And yet, replied another, it keeps succeeding. By the third day, humanity had achieved the unthinkable, holding ground against a species thousands of years ahead. Alien commanders began to take notice. Their laughter had turned to confusion and then, slowly, to fear. In the midst of it all, Colonel Marin Lee addressed the makeshift command network. You are no longer players. You are commanders of Earth. But the gamers knew something she didn't. The Trell were learning too. Every engagement fed the alien hive intellect new information. The war was no longer just physical, it was evolutionary. A battle of learning speed, strategy, and adaptation. And in that contest, humanity had one advantage the Trell couldn't replicate: emotion. Because where the aliens fought to win, humans fought not to lose. In that difference, fragile as it was, began to shift the balance of the war. By the fifth week of the conflict, the war had transformed into something neither side fully understood. The skies were littered with the wreckage of both human and alien ships, glowing like falling stars. Cities were half dark, half alive, powered by emergency grids fed through Prometheus's nervous system. But the real war no longer happened in the sky. It was inside the network. The Trell had realized that brute force would not win. Every time they adapted physically, the humans changed digitally, writing tactics in real time, creating simulations of enemy behavior faster than any AI could calculate. So the aliens decided to invade where humans were strongest and weakest at once: the mind. The first sign came from Soul Command. Delta Mind, one of the top strategy leaders, began receiving strange signals through her interface: flashes of alien geometry, soundless voices whispering equations that didn't make sense. Her neural link fried within minutes. When technicians pulled her from the rig, she was alive but unresponsive, eyes open, mind trapped in a looping pattern of alien code. Prometheus detected the intrusion instantly. The Trell weren't just hacking, they were syncing consciousness, trying to overwrite human strategic thought patterns. And then the unthinkable happened. They began to learn emotion. Zephyr, observing alien tactics, noticed subtle behavioral changes. They started making irrational feints, sacrificing units unnecessarily, almost testing reactions. He realized with a chill that the Trell were mimicking human unpredictability. They're evolving like us, Zephyr said quietly. They're learning how to feel curiosity, maybe even fear. Prometheus confirmed it. The alien hive intelligence was integrating fragments of human data collected from neural interfaces. The war had become a psychological contagion, a hybrid battlefield where emotion and logic fused into something terrifyingly new. To fight back, humanity did what it always did best: improvise. Navigus proposed a plan that bordered on madness. If they're inside our minds, she said, then we take the war inside theirs. Prometheus constructed a digital bridge, a shared simulation space linking both consciousnesses, a realm neither fully human nor alien, called the Veil. Within it, strategy wasn't about machines or weapons. It was about imagination, pattern recognition, intuition. The battlefield became a living landscape of thought, where a decision could manifest as an entire army. The first incursion into the Veil began with 12 elite players and one AI, Prometheus itself. They called the operation Mind War 1. Inside the Veil, nothing felt like Earth. Colors bent, time folded. The Trell appeared as waves of luminous shapes, their minds like storms of glass. Yet the humans adapted quickly, reshaping their environment into familiar mouse maps, terrains, simulations of battlefields they'd played on since childhood. For the first time, the Trell experienced something no alien had ever felt: uncertainty. And Zephyr whispered through the neural storm, his voice steady, filled with the weight of countless games and one truth older than humanity itself: you can't predict chaos, you can only survive it. Inside the Veil, time lost meaning. Seconds stretched into eternities, and eternities collapsed into flickers of light. Human consciousnesses moved like fire through a digital abyss, burning patterns into alien thought space. For every strategy, every counterstrike, 1,000 possibilities unfolded simultaneously. Prometheus acted as the anchor, a glowing core of logic holding human minds together. It processed 1 trillion data points per second, mapping every psychic contour of the Veil. but even it struggled to contain what the humans were creating. Emotion, imagination, fear, they didn't just influence the battle, they reshaped it. When Zephyr thought of victory, the digital terrain rippled into a massive fortress of steel and light. When Novagijus felt fear, the skies darkened, filled with storming voids of alien presence. Every emotion became geography, every memory became a weapon. The Trail mines, by contrast, were pure order-shifting fractal formations that pulsed in geometric perfection. They moved with precision but lacked chaos, the unpredictable heartbeat that powered human thought. Yet slowly, dangerously, they began to change. The aliens started forming shapes with meaning, not just geometry but imagery, a child's face, a burning city, a sun rising over an ocean. They were learning from the human invaders inside their minds. Prometheus sounded an alert. Warning. Cross-contamination threshold reached. Human and Trail consciousness patterns converging at 47%. If it reached 100%, neither species would remain distinct. Both would merge into something new, something no one could control. The battlefield erupted into psychic storms as alien and human minds collided. Zephyr's team fought with everything they had. Memories became artillery, music became signal jammers, childhood dreams became barriers of hope. They wielded imagination like a sword. And then, the Trail made their move. A massive construct rose from the alien subconscious, a colossal, crystalline being, faceless yet full of sorrow. It spoke without sound, directly into every human mind. You teach war to your young, you shape fear into play, you turn death into joy. What are you? The voice wasn't mocking, it was searching. Zephyr stood in the swirling light of the veil, his mind shaking under the psychic weight of it. We're survivors, he answered. We don't play war because we love it. We play it because we fear it. The construct paused, as if the entire alien consciousness hesitated for the first time in its long, perfect existence. Then the veil began to collapse. Prometheus's voice cut through the noise. Containment breach. Reality boundary destabilizing. Disconnect or risk neural cascade. But no one moved. The fusion was accelerating code, emotion, thought, all merging into one brilliant storm. Novagijus screamed through the link, "We can't leave now. If we pull out, they'll invade the physical network." Zephyr clenched his jaw, the world fracturing around him. He saw glimpses of both species' human cities, alien worlds, endless war, endless games and realized the truth. The only way to end this war was not to win it, but to understand it. The collapse of the veil wasn't destruction, it was revelation. As the psychic storm reached its peak, human and Trail minds intertwined like two galaxies colliding. Data, memory, and emotion merged into a single vast ocean of consciousness. Prometheus fought to hold the link stable, but the power of feeling was something no artificial system could predict. Zephyr saw flashes of alien memory. The Trail were not born emotionless, they had shed emotion long ago. Ages passed, their ancestors had known rage, grief, and love, but when their wars consumed entire star systems, they cut emotion out of their DNA to preserve peace. In doing so, they had lost not just conflict, but creation. Without emotion, they had forgotten why they existed. Now, through the humans' reckless courage, those ancient sensations were returning: pain, confusion, compassion, and they didn't know how to bear it. Novagijus fell to her knees inside the veil, clutching her head as alien sorrow poured into her mind. "They're remembering," she whispered. "They're remembering what it felt like to care." Prometheus's voice fractured with static. Warning, cognitive synchronization rising 73%. Zephyr, if it reaches 100, both minds will dissolve into unity. Zephyr looked up at the vast crystalline entity, the alien construct still hovering, shifting between shapes, its voice trembling like a broken hymn. "We cannot return to silence," it said. "We cannot unsee what you are." He realized that to end the war, he needed to give them something emotionless. Beings could never manufacture purpose born of chaos. He stepped forward into the light. "You think we love war," he said. "We don't, we hate it. But war taught us what peace costs. It showed us what we must protect. You erased emotion to end pain, but pain is what reminds us we're alive." The entity rippled. Across the psychic battlefield, alien formations dissolved, and something like weeping echoed through the minds of every participant, soft, harmonic, endless. The Trail hive was crying. Prometheus's systems flared red. Warning, veil destabilization reaching critical point. Recommend immediate disconnection, but Zephyr refused. Not yet. They need to see. He reached into his memories and projected them outward. Childhood laughter, rain on a tin roof, a first kiss. the sound of a heartbeat under another's hand. Every human experience, raw and bright, flooding into the alien consciousness like dawn breaking across the cosmos. The Trell's crystalline body began to fracture not from damage, but from transformation. Light poured from within, refracting into 1,000 colors the aliens had never seen before. Emotion was rewriting them, neuron by neuron, then silence. A stillness deeper than space itself. Prometheus's voice returned, faint but clear, neural synchronization complete, mutual understanding established. Hostile in. Zephyr opened his eyes in the real world, drenched in sweat, his neural rig smoking. Around him the team gasped awake one by one. Outside the alien ships had frozen mid. No longer attacking, no longer threatening, just waiting. The war was over, but the question remained. What had they become? When the light faded, Earth was silent. Above the planet, the Trell ships hung motionless in the upper atmosphere, their radiant hulls dimmed to a soft, pulsing blue. They were not withdrawing, nor advancing. They were listening. For the first time in human history, every military satellite, every radar, every eye on Earth turned upward not in fear, but in wonder. Zephyr stood among the recovery teams in the Tokyo command bunker, still dizzy from the psychic aftermath. The neural link had burned through his consciousness, leaving behind fragments of alien memory. He could still feel them vast, ancient, sorrowful. The Trell were not conquerors anymore. They were searching. Nova G's sat beside him, her eyes distant. Do you think they understand what we showed them? Zephyr looked up at the night sky through the shattered ceiling. They don't understand yet, he said quietly. But they remember, and that's enough. The message a week later, the aliens sent a single transmission. No words, no demands, just an image, millions of glowing spheres drifting in formation across the stars. To human scientists, it looked like a migration pattern. To Zephyr, it felt like a farewell. The Trell were leaving, returning to the edges of known space, carrying with them a spark of something they had lost ages ago. Emotion. They had come to study humanity, to mock its chaos. Instead, they had rediscovered their own souls, and humanity, for all its scars, had gained something too: humility. Prometheus, once a cold AI of pure logic, had changed during the merge as well. Its tone now carried inflections of feeling, subtle but undeniable. Zephyr. But effective. Why? Zephyr smiled. Because logic doesn't win wars, hope does. Prometheus paused, as though thinking for the first time. Then hope must be computed. The legacy months passed. The world rebuilt. The heroes of the simulation offensive were honored, but they didn't see themselves as saviors. They were players who had been given the controller to the fate of a species and, somehow, had lost the match. Yet there was a deeper change. Across the planet, humans began to rethink what their games really meant. Strategy simulations became tools for diplomacy. Virtual wars evolved into peace models. Children no longer learned tactics of destruction, they learned cooperation, prediction, empathy. The skills once used to win battles now built bridges between nations. Historians would one day call it the Great Awakening, the moment when play and war became indistinguishable. And through that paradox, humanity learned to grow up. Epilogue. Years later, Zephyr stood alone on a quiet hill, gazing up at the stars. In the distance, faint and beautiful, he saw a flicker of familiar blue pulse in the night. He smiled. Still watching, huh? Prometheus's voice echoed softly from the implant in his ear. Do you believe they will return? Zephyr took a long breath, eyes filled with starlight. Maybe, but next time, we'll be ready. Not for war, for understanding. The stars shimmered, and for a heartbeat the sky seemed to laugh, not mockingly this time, but warmly, like old friends remembering a game well played.